We're speaking with presidential candidate Cenk Uygur. Cenk, this is our first time talking about the race on the air. You're about like a month into the race at this point, and we've previously discussed the sort of legal challenges. I know from your prior run for Congress that there's also the sort of media aspect of running as an outsider inside of the Democratic Party. I'm curious about the reception that you've received towards your presidential bid. How has the media received you? Is the approach at all different than the experience that you had running as a congressional candidate?
Yeah, it is, and it's really interesting. And it's not black and white. It's been different in different stages. So when I first announced, the media was relatively fair, and I suspected that they would be. And I'll tell you why I think they went in that direction. Because even mainstream media, Joe Scarborough, Bill Maher, James Carville, Paul Begala, you name it, they all have their hair on fire. They all get it. They're political, pros. Joe Biden's going to lose, so they're like, anyone that could serve as a proxy to get other people in this race. And like, whether it's me or Dean Phillips that jumps up to, or Marianne jumps to 20, 25 points, then finally people are gonna pull Biden aside and go, brother, you're gonna lose. This is ridiculous. And now you're gonna get embarrassed and you're gonna get loose to one of these guys unless you step down right away. We have enormously popular Democratic governors all across the country. Andy Beshear just won in Kentucky. We got governors so popular, they're winning in deep red states. They would start out with a 5 to 10 point lead on Donald Trump. Instead, Joe Biden is down by 5 points. He's the only one that could lose to Donald Trump. So the media reaction in the beginning wasn't bad. So we're not used to that, coming at it from outside a point of view, progressive point of view. But lately, and Quinnipiac had me in a poll, and so it sounds funny, but I got 2%, and 2% is not close to 50%. I'm perfectly aware of that. Having said that, it ties Chris Christie, it beats the governor of North Dakota, and it beats the governor of Arkansas. Now Mike Pence and Tim Scott have dropped out, and so here we are. People were generally shocked that I registered, because in their minds, outsider, no way. He's gonna get zero, he's gonna get zero. So when I showed up in a poll tied with all those governors, they're like, whoa. And then the media for like a minute was even more fair, okay? Which is again, unprecedented for us, and that's great, okay? JenkForAmerica.com, anything is possible. Now, but lately, the thing that's driving me crazy is a lot of the polling organizations are leaving me out. Well, wait a minute, I'm polling higher than 3 governors. What's your excuse for leaving me out? And the excuse is, well, we believe in this form of discrimination. We think, that you should be branded as second-class citizen, and we'd like to make you invisible. So we don't even care how many Americans want you to be president. By the way, 2% gets you to about 1.6 million voters that say that I should be president of the United States of America. That is humbling, that is amazing. And we can move that to 4 to 8 to 12 to 20 and actually get this thing done if they don't put us in the polls. But if the American people say, no, Cenk, we're not interested. I stay at the low numbers, it never rises, I can live with that judgment. That's called democracy. But if you never take it to the American people and the press makes you invisible, that's the kind of discrimination I can't, and injustice that I can't stomach. So, and the Democratic Party, of course, is acting likewise. It's one thing when right-wingers go, ha ha, you're not one of us, you're a foreigner, ha ha, right? It's another thing when left-wingers do that, or the Democratic Party does that, or the media does that. That should not be acceptable.
So you mentioned there that you can't stomach it. I guess the question then will be, so what strategically do you do about it? If they've turned to not putting you in the polls, if it looks like there's not going to be debates, if it looks like, I guess the Democrats in charge of like the DNC and the process don't agree with like Scarborough and Maher, and they either they think that Biden could pull it out, or they would rather lose with Biden than win with anyone else. So then what do you do to break through if those traditional routes to growing popularity like that Bernie Sanders might have used in 2016, that sort of thing, are being closed off?
Yeah, you know me, they're never gonna be able to close me off. So here's my strategies. First of all, Quinnipiac already has me in the poll. Once you get 2%, what are they going to say? Like, oh, we're taking him out, even though he actually registered higher than 3 governors? That doesn't make sense. So I'm at least in that poll, and will continue to be in that one. I'm in the New York Times tracker, so I should be in the New York Times polling. And so the minute those numbers start to go up, then their positions become even more untenable. The minute I'm on a number of ballots, their position becomes completely untenable. And so we put pressure on, and soon I'll be going on TYT's Discord channel, tyt.com, as a candidate and not as a host, and telling people, let's go. Ask these polling organizations, ask these media organizations, why are you trying to erase Cenk? Why don't you let us vote? This is the same argument I made in New Hampshire. Why are you taking it out of the voters' hands? And in the case of the polling, in a sense, you're voting all across the country there when you answer a poll. So make sure you answer the polls and make sure that they put my name in there. But John, I'm also going to do, as I am in the middle of doing now, a media blitzkrieg. So I'm going on every form of media there is: radio, TV, podcast, print, you name it. And on right-wing shows, on left-wing shows, on mainstream shows, every kind of show there is. And I'm shouting from the rooftops things that are obviously true. Biden's going to lose. He's down 24 points on the economy, 19 points on jobs. He's down 10 points to independents. He's lost Latino voters completely. He went down from a 42% lead that the Democrats had on Latino voters down to 4%. Soon Trump is going to be winning Latino voters over Biden. He's a historically weak candidate. And he says, well, I decree as the king of the Democrats that no one is allowed to run against me. Well, brother, you ain't the king. And the other Democrats that are treating you like you're the king and bowing their heads in subservience to you make no sense at all. Why should we go with the weakest candidate we have? And by the way, John, everywhere I go, everyone agrees he's the weakest candidate. So this idea that we should all have an authoritarian Democratic Party that chooses the worst possible candidate when democracy is on the line, when our government's on the line, the voters' lives are on the line, is unacceptable. And so I'm going to preach that gospel for 2 straight months. And guess what? By the way, we're going to win Iowa. Iowa's a caucus. You know what you do in caucuses? You convince your fellow citizens. You know who's good at convincing fellow citizens? Me and my team. We're going to win Iowa, and we're going to shock the world.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.